how do I reduce the amount of time I spend on emails? This is a question I get asked so often. And one of the things that we talked about when we were at Microsoft was the fact that email came in the 90s, and it wasn't used heavily for a while, and then all of a sudden it just became part of our business toolkit. Now, prior to that, for those that can remember, most of our communications used to be via telephone, via face-to-face meetings, and via letters in the mail. So often you'd send something to a client, it'd take a day or so to go in the mail, they'd get a response, they might give you a call, then they might prepare a response and message it back to you via a letter. So sometimes those things took several days. Of course, there were also fax machines, but the speed at which we can get communications anywhere in the world is so much faster today as a result of email. So in the past, we had various communication strategies, but email seems to have become one of the major communication strategies. Now, I ask you just to put aside things like Teams or any of those products like Slack that you might use internally to communicate. So every organisation is going to have their own protocols around what sort of platform they're using, but a vast majority of people are using Outlook, particularly for communications that are external. So if you use internal communication channels like Teams, etc., we're not going to be looking or referring to that at all today. We're just going to be looking at using Microsoft Outlook. So pop it in the context that's relevant to you. So the first question is, how do I reduce the amount of time I spend on emails? Well, again, realise that email is part of a communication strategy, and it's not the only way to communicate. So it's a matter of thinking about how we need to communicate and whether it needs to be via email. So, for example, one of the simplest ways to reduce the amount of time you spend on emails could be as simple as batching when you deal with emails. So most people that I liaise with as corporate clients tend to open their email first thing, as soon as they get in every morning. And that's one of the worst things you can possibly do. And certainly when we were working with the team at Microsoft, it was something that we very much discouraged. We discouraged them opening and going straight into their emails first thing. Now, the reason for that was your time often gets sucked up by other people's requests and needs. And one of the challenges with emails is you get so many because they're so easy to send. If you needed to draft a letter, type it up, put it in an envelope, take it to a post office, get a stamp and send it, you probably would find that you didn't have as many messages coming to you or letters coming to you. But because email is so easy, often it's like a thought bubble. We think about something and we push it out. So by actively choosing to dedicate time where you go and have a look at your emails, that enables you to containerize your responses and allow you to focus on what are your priorities for the day. Now, by doing this, by scheduling time, you're removing what's often self-induced stress. So what I've found often happens with people is they get so worked up about emails. They could be working on something, they've got their emails open and the little notification pops up and they're distracted and go and start looking at an email only to have to pick up the pieces. There's plenty of research from Microsoft, Gloria Marks, how multitasking actually degrades productivity. So by containerizing the amount of time you spend on emails rather than going backwards and forwards, you're going to make your life a lot easier and you're going to feel a little more in control. And realistically, we can't control what comes to us, but we can control how we choose to respond. So that's the first question. How do you reduce the amount of time you spend on emails?